With the opening of Epic Universe just around the corner, it's about time for you to start planning your trip to this brand new theme park. With 5 immersive worlds and 11 ride-through attractions, there's a lot to pack your day with in this theme park. With so many exciting experiences, it's gonna be pretty hard to pack them all into one single day. Fortunately though, that is where this video comes in. I've been following Epic Universe since its announcement 6 years ago, so I've gotten to learn a lot about this park. So today, I want to share my guide and strategy to this theme park to help you all get on every single ride in one day. I want to start by saying that although I am pretty confident in this plan, the park is still not open and will not be open for another 4 months, so this plan has not been put into action yet by anybody. I plan on being at Epic Universe shortly after its opening day, so I will be putting this plan to the test to see if it actually works out, but I am very confident in it. Universal has also shared that there will be annual pass holder soft openings for this park, so if I'm able to get into one of those, then I will for sure test this out as well to get this information out to you guys and help you guys have the best day ever. But now, let's start out with the first phase of this plan, early park admission. Early park admission is a perk that is currently offered to guests staying at resort hotels at the Universal Orlando Resort and also to Universal Orlando annual pass holders. And early park admission is really important for this plan. If you don't plan on staying on property at Universal Orlando for your Epic Universe trip, I highly suggest you consider doing so because it's going to save you a lot of time with those long queues. Early park admission is really important for this plan, and you're about to see why. It's because Universal confirmed that early park admission will be available for Epic Universe. And they even told us which rides would be open for early park admission. Those rides are Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, Yoshi's Adventure, Minecart Madness, and Stardust Racers. If you're familiar with Super Nintendo World in either Hollywood or Japan, you will know that these lands are very popular, so it's very useful that Universal is including Super Nintendo World in early park admission in Epic Universe. When it comes to arriving at the park, I suggest you arrive 2 hours before the park's scheduled public opening time, which means that you would be arriving at a minimum of 1 hour before early park admission begins. Now, you can certainly arrive earlier than that, but I do not recommend arriving any later than 2 hours before the scheduled park opening time. That means that if the park opens at 9 a.m. and early park admission starts at 8 a.m., I want you arriving no later than 7 a.m. Arriving even earlier than that is going to be even better for you, but please do not show up 10 minutes before early park admission begins, because this entire plan will fall apart. So, as you can probably guess by now, your first stop of the day is going to be at Super Nintendo World. I also want you to go as far left as you possibly can when getting into the park. So that means using the leftmost turnstile. That means that you will be at the front of the crowd going to Super Nintendo World because Super Nintendo World is on the left-hand side of the park. Super Nintendo World is going to be home to 3 rides, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, Minecart Madness, and Yoshi's Adventure. Your first stop is going to be Minecart Madness. Once you get into Super Nintendo World, head downstairs and to the far right where you'll find the warp pipe that will take you to Donkey Kong Country. Once you're inside Donkey Kong Country, the entrance to Minecart Madness is going to be straight ahead. Now, you may be wondering why exactly is Minecart Madness going to be your first stop of the day, and the primary reason is capacity. The Minecart Madness ride vehicles seat 4 riders per train, which means that this ride's capacity is not as high as some of the other rides in this park, which means that the line for this ride is going to get much longer throughout the day. When I was in Disneyland Paris, Crush's Coaster always had the longest wait in the entire resort by far, largely because the ride vehicles only sat 4 people per train. These two rides may have similar capacities, which means that Minecart Madness may also have a similar level of popularity. I think that as time goes on and people start learning about which rides in Epic Universe are more popular than others, we're gonna see Donkey Kong really become the big rope drop attraction in this park. I seriously think that Donkey Kong Minecart Madness is going to have a similar level of popularity as Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. And this is not a ride that I suggest missing out on because it looks great. The mix of animatronics, practical sets, and a really innovative ride system makes this ride one of Universal's best. If you can, and if it has one, maybe even consider jumping into a single rider line for this attraction because it's really going to help you cut down on waits and save time during this early morning rope drop period. Rope drop is one of the most valuable times in a theme park day, and if you can save like 15 minutes in this line by doing single rider instead of standby, you should do it because that is going to save you a lot of time later on in the day. Those few minutes you save during rope drop can equate to hours saved later on in the day. If you do not hit this ride first thing, you may end up in a wait time as long as it's getting in Japan. 210 minutes is a lot of time during your one day in Epic Universe. So please hit Minecart Madness first thing. This is one of my biggest pieces of advice this entire video, that this ride has to be your first ride you hit if you want to ride it with a shorter wait time. Please ride this first. And if our version of the ride has a single rider line like the Japan version, consider utilizing it. But only use it if the line looks shorter than standby, because sometimes single rider lines can take as long or even longer than standby, so only use it if it looks to be shorter than standby. But now that I've finished talking about this guy, let's move on to our next stop of the day, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. So right after you get off of Minecart Madness, I recommend you head over to Bowser's Fortress to hop on Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. The ride entrance is found on the second floor of the land. Just walk right through the giant Bowser mouth. Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge is an interactive attraction that utilizes augmented reality goggles to make it seem like you're actually racing on a Mario Kart track. The ride is currently found in Universal Studios Hollywood and in Universal Studios Japan and is a must-do in both of those parks. In Hollywood and Japan, this ride does have a single rider line, so I recommend utilizing it. Because at this point in the day, the standby line may be getting a little bit longer, and again, you want to save as much time as you possibly can. At this point in the day, the early park admission period may be coming to a close, so you're going to want to get on this ride before that period ends, because when the park officially opens, this line is going to get much longer. By the time you get off of Bowser's Challenge, early park admission may most likely be over, but that doesn't mean that you're done in Super Nintendo World. Although the park is now officially open, the line for Yoshi's Adventure may not be that long because all the general public is going to be rope dropping Donkey Kong and Mario Kart, which you have already ridden. You'll be able to enjoy a shorter wait time at Yoshi's Adventure, so make sure you do it after Donkey Kong and Mario Kart. Now, I did not mention any of the power-up band minigames or key challenges because those aren't rides, and I'm making this video more about getting on all the rides, but you can for sure do those at this time because everybody is going to be rope dropping the rides. But now you have an important decision on where to go next. I'm going to give you a couple of options and show you the pros and cons and what I would personally do next. Before we move on to our next stop, I want to show you all my must-do list I created for Epic Universe. I've split the 11 rides in the park into 3 categories: the must-dos, try to ride it, and it's okay to skip. I know that there are a lot of factors that come up in the middle of your day that you didn't think would happen, so this list could help you decide which rides you may want to skip if you are running low on time. So these are, in my opinion, the 7 big must-do rides in the park: Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, Minecart Madness, Hiccup's Wing Gliders, Dragon Racers Rally, Stardust Racers, Harry Potter and the Battle with the Ministry, and Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. These are the 7 rides that I really recommend you experience throughout your time at Epic Universe. Curse of the Werewolf and Yoshi's Adventure are 2 rides that I wouldn't really recommend missing out on, but if you have to, I would recommend missing out on one of these instead of those first 7 that I already talked about. Fire Drill and Constellation Carousel are two rides that may be okay for you to skip if you're running low on time or if you're behind schedule. Of course, if it's a really hot day, you might want to move Fire Drill up a couple of places, but on a regular day that's not too terrible in Florida, this may be something that you're going to keep down here. At this point in the day, I highly advise against going to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic. The reason why is because I believe that Super Nintendo World and the Wizarding World are going to be the park's two biggest draws, meaning that they're going to be the two worlds that people rope drop. Of course, I expect every ride in the park to be fairly busy when the park opens, but I especially expect Super Nintendo World and the Wizarding World to be the two busiest worlds when the park opens. I know that you're desperate to get on Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, but just wait a little bit longer and you will get on it. So right now, you have 3 locations to go to when it comes to doing rides. Either Celestial Park, Dark Universe, or How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. Although these 3 worlds are all great choices for where you should head next, I'm gonna pick How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk, and here is why. Stardust Racers might be a little bit busier than you would like because of the early park admission crowds that might still be lingering around the coaster in addition to the regular rope drop crowds. So this ride in particular may be a little bit busier than you would like right now. I want to also advise against going to Dark Universe for Monsters Unchained this early in the morning because the Monsters Unchained queue is going to go through Frankenstein Manor, which is going to be indoors and most likely air conditioned. So it's something that you want to save for those hot Florida afternoons or those Florida afternoon rainstorms. How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk, on the other hand, is going to be a largely outdoor land as we can see in the aerial fly-through. By hitting this world right after the park opens, that means that it won't be too hot, so these queues won't be miserable to wait in, and you're avoiding the high chance of an afternoon thunderstorm, which would shut down all 3 rides in this world. And since a vast majority of the crowds are most likely going to be rope dropping Super Nintendo World and the Wizarding World, these 3 rides should hopefully not have terrible wait times. I would advise you to go ride Hiccup's Wing Gliders first because I expect that to be the most popular ride in this world, followed by Dragon Racers Rally, which I think is going to be the second most popular in this world, and then finally Fire Drill, which is for sure going to be a hit in those hot afternoons, but in the morning it might not be everybody's cup of tea. I personally think that it's much better to knock out this world now than save it for later and be stuck in these long outdoor lines in either a really hot environment or a really rainy environment. And in a rainy environment, you're not going to get on any of these rides. You will still have a great time doing Stardust Racers or Dark Universe right now, but this is, in my opinion, the best route to go. But now that we've wrapped up How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk, let's head to our next stop. We have now knocked out 6 of the 11 rides in this park, and we're making great time. Unfortunately though, at this point in the day, the park is probably going to start getting busier and you're going to start seeing longer waits at every ride. But I would say that the best place to head to next is Stardust Racers. But before that, head over to Constellation Carousel to grab a ride on that before Stardust Racers, because I anticipate this ride to still not have that bad of a wait compared to everything else in the park. Of course though, the park is rapidly getting busier and wait times are rapidly rising. But now I would suggest making your way over to Stardust Racers. Stardust Racers is a big dueling roller coaster, and that dueling aspect is going to help us out a lot in our planning right now. Instead of thinking of Stardust Racers as one ride, think of it instead as 2 different rides that share the same exact queue. Meaning that this queue is going to move really quickly. I'd expect one side of Stardust Racers to have a similar capacity to Jurassic World Velocicoaster over at Islands of Adventure, but with 2 tracks running at the same time, that means that the capacity is doubled, which makes this line go so much faster, and what makes it a ride that you can save for a little bit later on in the day and still not wait a terrible amount of time. Now, of course, if they're single riders, I would recommend you just use it, but this ride may be one that you don't even need to use single riders for, because that line is going to move so quickly. And at this point, everybody who participated in early park admission has most likely moved on to a different world, which makes this line more manageable for you. At this point in the day, it's most likely around midday, which means that it might be around time for you to grab some lunch, but you may not want to and you may just want to power through the rest of your day. Whatever you choose at this point, just know that you do have some long lines coming up, but you only have 3 rides remaining until you have done all the rides. Celestial Park is going to have a lot of dining opportunities like Atlantic, Blue Dragon, Meteor Astropub, and a lot more. So there's something for everybody in Celestial Park to eat. So this might be a good place to stop and grab lunch. At this point, you can choose between Dark Universe or the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic. I'm personally going to choose the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic, but both worlds are great options at this point. Unfortunately though, at this point in the day, it's going to be really hard to avoid those crowds and those lines. So I'm going to recommend Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. Now you may be wondering, why on earth am I going to go and wait in a multi-hour line for this ride right now? There is one good reason that I have for you. Air conditioning. Universal has shared a lot of first looks at the queue for this attraction, and it looks like a lot of it is going to be indoors, which means that you're going to be able to skip on some of those afternoon rainstorms, and it's not going to be hot in there because you're going to be inside. This line is most likely going to be pretty long, but at this point in the day, you want to be indoors for as long as you possibly can to soak in that nice AC and skip on the rainstorms. And the ride itself looks really interesting. I really like how Universal has pretty much given us like no details about the actual ride, so there's going to be so much mystery surrounding it, and it's just going to be so exciting riding it for the first time, because this is really our only piece of concept art for the ride. We really have like no idea what's going to be happening on it, and that's just so exciting. If you're still feeling exhausted at this point, which you might be after waiting in line a long time at Harry Potter at the Battle of the Ministry, I would recommend taking a break and going to see Le Cirque Arcanu, which is in the same world that you're already in. Theme park shows are usually around 30-ish minutes, so it's going to be a really nice long break for you to have while enjoying a really cool show, because we all know that a Harry Potter indoor theater show at a Universal park is about to be really cool. It might be raining, if not, it's going to be really hot, so this is a great way to escape the bad Florida climate and just relax for a good 30 minutes. Right now though, we don't know what the show times are going to be for any of the shows in the park, but when they do get released, I will post those on my YouTube community tab to keep you all up to date. If you're interested in seeing the Untrainable Dragon show and How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk, I would recommend seeing that now instead of after your last world, because odds are you're going to finish your last world around nighttime, and I don't know how late this show is going to be performing. Now, you can probably assume what our last world is. It's Dark Universe. Dark Universe has 2 ride-through attractions, Curse of the Werewolf and Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. You can do them in any order you feel like doing them, but I would personally recommend Curse of the Werewolf followed by Monsters Unchained. Here's why. Theme parks have a rule regarding rides' closing times. Usually, you can enter the line for any ride up to 1 minute before the park closes for the night and still be able to ride that ride. Please keep in mind that this rule would not apply if the ride ends up closing early for maintenance. So I would recommend doing Curse of the Werewolf first, because it's most likely going to have a shorter wait time, followed by Monsters Unchained, which is most likely going to have a longer wait time. You're going to be nearing the end of the day at this point, so you're going to want to save the longest wait in Dark Universe for the end of the night. And now, theoretically, you may have ridden every single ride in Universal Epic Universe in one day. I don't want to lie to you guys and say that this plan is 100% guaranteed to work, because it's not. The park isn't open yet, we still have 4 months to go, and this is all hypothetical. But I think that it has a good chance at working. I think that out of every plan you could possibly utilize, this one has one of the highest chances of succeeding. There are a lot of different factors that have to be taken into account, and there's going to be some things that we're not going to learn until after the park opens. For example, ride reliability. We don't know which rides are going to be more reliable than others, and that may make this list change around a little bit as what you should do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. But from a pre-park opening standpoint, I think this is the best route you can go. We do not know ride wait times, ride reliability, crowd trends, etc., so I cannot say that this plan is for sure going to work, but it certainly has a chance to. If there is a certain ride or world that is a high priority for you, I recommend hitting that first instead of following this plan because that is what is most important to you. This is more of a generalized plan to hopefully get on everything in the park without prioritizing certain attractions. If you have any questions or commentary, please leave them down below in the comment section and I will be sure to respond to you. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel because we're trying to hit 1,000 subs by May 22nd, 2025, the opening date of Epic Universe. Thank you all so much for watching this video and I'll see you all real soon.